we will start. So I will welcome you to the March 28th meeting of the Board of Regional Commissioners and would like to ask you to join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please join us in a moment of silence so that we can remember in our prayers and thoughts all of those who serve in the armed forces and for those who have given their lives for our country. Thank you. If there's anyone here who would like to speak on any issue that is not related to the agenda item, which is the discussion on the recommendations of the Special Commission, if you have any other public comment that you would like to make, now is the time. Hearing none, I guess we will move to our discussion. I think by now everyone is aware of the Special Commission on County Government, which was not appointed by the county commissioners. We did not appoint the Special Commission. We asked former Senators Henri Rauschenbach and Rob O'Leary if they would be willing to co-chair a special commission to really take a look at county government, from governance to services to other agencies that work on Cape Cod that have a relationship with Barnstable County, and ask them if they would be willing to do this and if they could gather together people that they thought would be very helpful to them in working through a process like this. So Henri and Bob actually are the ones who chose the members of the Special Commission. And we could very well have considered approving it, but we didn't think it was really necessary. We thought they had done a really good job on putting together the group of people. And about almost 2 weeks ago, the committee finished its work. Last meeting, our very last meeting, both Bob and Henri came and presented to us the document, which is in the form of a book. Some of you who were there received a copy of the book. If you didn't, I think it is on the website by now.
It should be, yeah.
And so it is available, all of the recommendations.
Excuse me, There was one, the minutes for the last meeting, I don't think have been posted yet, the one on February 29th.
I just saw those come through from Pat, maybe yesterday.
They just came through yesterday, so they should be posted very soon.
So that would be posted shortly.
So what, one of their recommendations deals with wastewater. And about a month ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago, the commissioners met with Paul Niedzwiecki and Andrew Gottlieb. Paul, the executive director of the Cape Cod Commission, and Andrew Gottlieb, the executive director of the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative. And we asked them, based on some of the recommendations that were in this report, if they would take it upon themselves to develop a regional plan and the implications of a regional plan on wastewater for the Cape, and present this to us sometime by the end of the year, sometime in December. And we also asked them, as they work through the process on a regional plan, that they report to us on a regular basis. I think we said May, August, October, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Or any time that they think they need to come back and have a discussion with us, they keep in very close touch with us on the progress that they are making on wastewater, to consider the recommendations that the Special Commission has made in the development of their regional plan.
If I could just add to that, the collaborative really has taken up the process of how that's going to roll out. And Linnell Grunman, who is on that, was putting together a template and a timeline as to, public comment. And we are going to be doing forums. And I am recommending that we do them on a Saturday, because it seems Saturday is a day that many people will take the time out if it's that important for them and they're not working. It's not in the evening when you have children or other engagements. So, but I will be talking with Larry later on and with Linnell, and we will, once we have that, we will also issue a statement to the papers as to this is the process, this is the procedure, this is how it's going to roll out, and this is how you can keep informed.
Okay. The other point I wanted to make is, on the agenda, it reads, discussion and vote recommendations of the special commission. Because of the open meeting law, if the chairman anticipates that there may be a vote on any of the recommendations, that has to be included on the agenda. If it only says discussion, and if the board, committee, commission, whatever public group is meeting, and they choose and they are at a point where they want to vote, and vote is not on the agenda, you can't vote. So I always make sure in preparing the agenda that it is inclusive, so that if there is an item on that particular agenda item that we are ready to vote on, we can vote on it because it's included in the agenda. Doesn't necessarily mean that we may get to a vote on every single recommendation today, but the agenda will always say vote so that we comply with the open meeting law regulations.
As a practical matter, I believe on the recommendation that we're discussing at this time, we had already taken an action or a vote to support it and move it forward.
Right.
So I would suggest that, that's a settled matter and that we move on to the other items.
And I do look at the wastewater as a separate issue from all of these others, because that's just something that's on its own track and it has its own level of importance, and it's in a process right now.
So I think we all agree that we have taken up the issue of wastewater, and we have delegated that task to Paul Nizwicki and Andy, and that is going to move forward on a parallel track, and they're going to be taking that up and reporting back to us. So we're going to deal with everything here other than wastewater, because we have already done that. So the first item, the first recommendation has to do with transportation. The County and Regional Transportation Authority. I thought there were some important points here. One, that the RTA works with the Cape Cod Commission on the shared economic development mission, which I think is really important because the commission has a transportation person. They have an engineer, traffic. They have people who deal with traffic management at the commission. And it makes sense to have a collaboration, if you will. Bill, I know you sit on the RTA, so you may want to comment on this.
And in past time, I sat on the Transportation Committee at the Cape Cod Commission, and I presently represent us on the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And I would suggest to you that all of the things that they're asking for are actually in place. And for example, Tom Cahere has created a joint task force that looks at all land, sea, and public transportation. That much of the money that the Cape Cod Commission receives with regard to transportation, an important piece of that is directed towards the support that the planning organization, the Cape Cod Commission, gives to the RTA. So with all of that in place, I think that this is something that is basically done, and that there's no need of us, let's say, complicating it by coming up with a separate, recommendation, especially since the Joint Task Force on Air, Sea, Land, and Public Transportation meets on a very regular basis, at least once every other month. And indeed, our Senator Wolf, has maintained his membership on that as representing, the air community. But they're already doing that stuff, so I would say that we don't. We leave this alone and move on to other ones.
I happen to agree with that. I think since Tommy Cahere has taken lead, it's very coordinated, it's very open, and there is a lot of collaboration, as you say, at these meetings. So it's not as though one hand is not knowing what the other is doing. I think they're pretty much...
Okay, maybe you could speak to the very last sentence in the recommendation that says convening all regional local transportation groups annually or more regularly through the county would be an important first step.
To me, that would be an overlap and redundant with what is actually going on now, because, for example, the RTA is meeting this afternoon over at the Cape Cod Commission to discuss alternate transportation, especially in the area of bicycles. So what would the county, it might give us more visibility as a county, but I don't think it really serves that it adds to it, and I wonder what audience would be left to hear our, let's say to hear our convening when when the activities of the MPO, the Joint Transportation Committee, the RTA, and the Cape Cod Commission are already very visible with regard to this, and I believe that the participation of the Cape Cod Commission speaks to our support and interest on this.
No, I happen to agree. I mean, if we can always invite Tom in once a year if we want to just have an update on how all progress is going and if there's anything we can do, but I don't think there's any, it's not broken, I'm not going to jump in and try to fix it.
Mark?
I was just going to say that maybe we need to think about what buckets we put these in, and one of the buckets is, moves forward as a recommendation for action.
Yeah.
One is we think we need to do better at, and one is maybe we think we're already doing that.
Okay.
So I'm
Something
going
like
to
that.
Then I'll make a motion that we, on this recommendation, we take no action.
I don't know if you want to take
We
these
don't want to just let it go, though.
right.
We want to be able to retain some interest and attention to
Sort of,
the
there's always
recommendation.
you can always do some stuff better. It's just kind of how, in terms of what you're looking at here, which is sort of the governance piece, what it needs to kind of move forward and what can sort of be placed, I hate to say on a back burner, that's not quite correct, but we don't think that this is part of this governance piece anyways. We're sort of already doing this.
All right. Let me make a suggestion that because I represent you on the MPO, which is the conduit for federal money for transportation, into Cape Cod, and that I happen to sit as in this case, a representative of the town of Harwich on the RTA, that I'm in a position to, let's say, to support any information that you might need with regard to this, and I will certainly, and I believe that I have in the past made you aware of, let's say, of things that were going on. For example, when we added completed all of the fixed route bus services, that over the Cape, and on the MPO, I know that one of the things that I've been very concerned with is that the public at large recognize that they have an opportunity to make their suggestions known about the kinds of things that they need with regard to, let's say, exits and entrances, improvements on, on roadways and things of that sort. That they are also represented by a group that is elected by the selectmen to represent the different, the 4 districts that that we have. So with all of that there, I would suggest to you that you task me with making a report on some quarterly basis as to what was going on.
Well, here's what I'm going to suggest, that I think each of us should take some responsibility for each of these in some fashion. You already have your designation as the transportation person. To keep this whole plan viable and in the public forum, in the public discussion, that every 3 months, you make a report to the county commissioners at a regularly scheduled meeting, and you would be scheduled for 15 minutes, however long it takes, to report on the progress that is being made regarding this recommendation on a countywide basis. And you can break that down however you wish, the relationship with the commission, the reports to the towns, the financial savings that towns are seeing because of the bus transportation, the increase in the ridership or whatever, however you want to structure it, that you would take that responsibility for being that liaison and to report on that on a quarterly basis.
I do that gladly.
You do that, great. Okay. Any other comments on transportation? Anyone here present would like to comment? Then we'll move on to wastewater. I think we pretty much addressed wastewater.
That's in process.
And now, you are the liaison to wastewater, so I would suggest that we have regularly scheduled agenda items where ahead of time that you will be making a progress report on where we are with the wastewater recommendations.
I will inform you as soon as we have a proposal of the process, and I'll have Larry and Linnell and myself and Andy come in, and whoever else from the steering committee, executive committee wants to come in and we can discuss that and present that, and then we'll put it
Okay.
forward to the
Yeah.
press.
Yeah.
Marcia?
I have a question, Marcia King, Mashpee delegate from Seminole. There are actually two recommendations here, and I know you're addressing the second one, which is the commissioners to charge executive director of the commission to do. But what about the first one, where it says, we strongly and unanimously recommend the Barnstable County Commissioners working with the Cape Cod legislation delegation take an open and public process, seek special legislation, establishing a Cape Cod wastewater district. Are you addressing that? Are you going to be voting on that particular? Because there are really two recommendations here. So I mean, I understand the second one, you've already said you took the vote previously, but what about the first one?
My feeling on that, if I can just say, is that I think that as the process goes forward, and the discussions and public has input, that would be something that we could decide on how we want to proceed with that down the road. I mean, that's just my own opinion. I'll leave it to you.
Well, it as you read, recommend that the commissioners working with the delegation seek legislation. That's part of our charge to Paul Niedzwiecki and Andy Gottlieb, that piece of the recommendation. Now, where it comes to meeting with the delegation, obviously, they would include us in that. I mean, if they chose to have a meeting with the delegation to try to advance some type of legislation forward, the commissioners would have to approve any kind of legislation that might happen. That's why we expect them to report to us this, and I think Sheila's report can coincide with their report, because we have asked them to meet with us on a quarterly basis to let us know. Or if something comes up that requires our attention, our inclusion, any kind of a commitment on the part of the commissioners or a vote, that they would schedule that meeting in a more timely fashion so that we could discuss and pursue whatever that might be. They don't just necessarily wait to the quarterly report, but if you have something very definitive that you need to move on and it requires our approval, that you schedule a meeting, and we do that in a very public process. Because I think all the way through this, we are committed to this being as transparent as possible. We want everything about this plan as it moves forward to be transparent, so that everybody knows what's going on, not only with the commissioners, but with all the other people who are part of this process, that it is a transparent process, that there's nothing that's no backroom deals or, closed, behind closed
Something
doors.
was filed without knowledge.
Exactly.
I think that it would be premature to write legislation right now, because we don't know what we're writing legislation for, if it's even needed. What might come out of this whole research, this whole exercise, is a recommendation that a regional approach is really a federation of towns around certain watersheds or certain water bodies. Or it may say, and this is the benefit from doing this, and this is the cost of this. And if you went with an entity that really had a regional control, in that it organizes and coordinates the efforts, this is what that would look like, and this is the benefits and the drawbacks from that. And until we know those things, I think it's premature to say that we would write legislation. If the solution is agreed upon, or if there's enough consensus that the solution is an entity and that requires legislation, then I think we would then write that legislation and propose it. And I think that the delegation stands ready to support us in any way. I think their statement was saying, we support you going towards solutions, we support a regional approach, and basically they're saying, we're here for you if you need us.
It could be, as they move forward, that some of these regional efforts could be done through intermunicipal agreements.
Right. It may not
That
take
it doesn't
legislation.
require anything. I'm thinking of Falmouth, because obviously I live there and I'm more familiar with it. Falmouth shares a watershed with Mashpee, Wacoit Bay. We don't share any other watersheds other than Buzzards Bay. We share with Mattapoisett and Marion and everybody else. But Wacoit Bay, half of it is in Falmouth and half is in Mashpee. Wacoit Bay needs to be cleaned up. We could enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Mashpee as to how that's going to happen. And can the towns obviously are going to have to come up with some kind of money to do it, but hopefully there would be other resources of money or funds that might be available. It could be the state, it could be a grant, whether or not Congressman Keating and our congressional delegation is going to be successful. I think they've already filed a bill to provide federal funds to help with some of this. So we don't know, but it could be as simple as intermunicipal agreements,
Right.
and where they work, that's the region. That's a regional plan.
What would make a regional plan more attractive if it proves to show that as a regional entity, we can garner more funds as a one voice. And if by doing it in that fashion, and then those resources are used to help other areas that may not be in need of some sort of treatment center or traditional treatment in the form of pipes and that sort of thing, but they're, like on the Outer Cape, we're able to do things in a natural attenuation, but those are still monitoring efforts, there's still work to be done, there's still money to be put into that. So if there's a cost savings effect that one can support the other in different ways, and that you can garner more money through a regional voice, then it would make sense, but that has to still play out.
Go ahead, Marcia.
What I was asking was the comment that Mark just said, you can have 3 choices of a vote. We've already done it, we're looking into it, or we're going to vote yes.
Right.
And I guess that's all I really wanted you to do. So you're not going to vote on this comment.
No.
You're not going to vote on this recommendation. Because you could because with all you're just saying is your vote could be, we're waiting for the second part of it, but that's okay. I mean, I'm just curious, when you say you're going to vote, and Mark made a recommendation of how you should vote, you're not voting. So you're just going to talk about the recommendation.
The only thing I'd say, Marcia, on that, especially on the second one, where you've already adopted very specific language, I don't recall off the top of my head what it was, but you made a very specific adoption back in February on this particular
We did.
matter, that I think you're saying you've covered that.
Yes.
With that language that you specifically adopted, you covered this sort of broad
Recommendation.
task and
So-
recommendation.
And we did include legislation if it proves to be necessary.
Exactly, right. They're charged with doing that over the next
Right,
7 or 8 months.
if that's what they're supporting.
So,
Okay.
Wait a second, Bill is first, and then you, Ron.
Okay. I believe it was very specific in what Paul Nizwicki had suggested and Andrew Gottlieb agreed to, which is that the first step was to identify and create an environmental response that would suggest the kind of work that needed to be done based upon finding out where and what kinds of problems there were. That the form, this functional analysis that he's been charged to provide would then, let's say, create the basis of the form of a structure that would respond to it. And I believe that's where we are right now. And I believe we have to wait till this plays out before we actually provide any supplemental information, because we shouldn't be influencing what we've charged Paul to do.
We voted to accept the recommendations of the special commission. Now we're getting down to the meat and potatoes, What part of the recommendation, what are we going to do with it now that we've accepted it?
Right.
And that's what we're moving forward
What will it
on
look
today.
like? What will that
So do
recommendation
you want
look
it to
like?
comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, I'm already getting emails from people, and they're saying, well, that the county is going to impose something on the towns and stuff, and now, you're on record as saying, well, we've talked to our legislative delegation for seeking legislation. So
we have
you
not.
got to understand, well, they're prepared to. So I think it should be made clear that if this is your intention, that this is going to have to go to the ballot somewhere. It's either going to have to go to the town ballots to join this, or it's going to have to go on the general election ballot to create this, or is it the intention of the county to simply create legislation and have it passed in Boston? That's the question is are the towns going to decide whether they want to belong to this or not?
Well, first of all, what this says is that it could include legislation. We don't know yet whether there will be any legislation. And the fact that we are keeping this process open and transparent, and we're going to have it on our agenda probably every month, because there's so many of them, at least every week or every other week, someone's going to be reporting on one aspect of this plan. And if the recommendations come back to us at some point down the line, September, October, November, but it's a developing plan. It's not that all of a sudden in September, we're going to find out, oh, they want legislation, because we're going to know about this as it goes through the developmental stage.
I just think it would clear the air throughout the Cape if it was made clear that the people of the Cape are going to have vote on this. In other words, otherwise you're going to spend a lot of time with a lot of people saying, oh, what's going on? They're doing this, they're doing that.
It depends on the legislation. If the legislation has taxing with it, obviously it has to go on the referendum. It may be a legislation that has no taxation at all, that doesn't create any kind of a taxing authority.
bonding authority, right.
Or we
Yeah.
can bond, but if they create an
have that.
authority that bonds, that's different. Go ahead.
The chapters that create counties also have the ability to, if the towns agree, they can use the county as an umbrella organization to meet their particular goals and requirements. That legislation already exists. It may be that the recommendation that comes out is to indeed use that and do what we've been doing so far, which is to encourage the solutions based upon what makes sense in a particular area, because from the time that I started on this to now, it has always been identify where the area of greatest need has been and identify solutions that are appropriate for in what I call a sub-regional area. If the perception is that we are going to build one central treatment plant and run a pipe down Route 6, which is at the basis of a lot of, let's say, a lot of the response that I hear, that's not what we're intending.
Right.
Okay? And I think that by this means, by saying it over and over and over again, it is about solving the problem in a way that meets the need and also is at the least impact on the people that are here.
Right.
None of us want to create a situation where people are looking at their sewer bill versus their ability to stay in their house. We know that that doesn't make sense. All of the work that we've done so far in supporting the efforts of looking at what the Conservation Law Foundation has been trying to avoid a judicial imposition of will to try to keep some control over what the needs are. We've been working very hard at that. We've been spending your money to do that, because we think in the long run it's going to be less costly to do that and more effective to do that than to wait to be told what we
No,
have
I
to
agree
do.
with you. I mean, I'm not opposing this. All I'm saying is,
Hold on a
I
second.
want to make sure that, I mean, the Wastewater Collaborative was created by an ordinance put before the Assembly. The Cape Cod Commission was created when the voters voted on an election. I just want to put out the assurance that at some point, there's going to be a decision-making process in which the individual towns and the voters are going to have their
Right.
say as to how this is
Our
going.
charge, Paul and Andy, is any recommendations that they come to bring to us have to have been thoroughly vetted with all the stakeholders on Cape Cod. We don't want to see a recommendation that everybody does not know about. It has to be, they have to meet with all the boards of selectmen, they have to hold public forums, they have to educate the citizens on Cape Cod. Don't come to us with something that nobody knows about. So they know that every recommendation has to be thoroughly
Don't hear the
vetted.
word vote.
No, but
What?
I agree with you. I think ultimately, Ron, it would have to go before the voters, because if it was going to be an entity of that magnitude or of that impact on people,
Right.
like the Cape Cod Commission, it would have to go before the voters. The other thing I just want to remind everybody here is that everybody involved in this, everybody who's working on it, we all live here. We all have a vested interest in the lowest cost for everyone as well, because there is no one here making a salary that it doesn't bother us one way or another.
Right.
It's
And
all
who-
going to have an impact on
and-
each and every one of us.
And who in their right
that is our
mind
goal.
would put a referendum on the ballot that would fail?
Right.
I mean, if you don't have public support for it, you're not going to
gonna
put it on a ballot for people to vote on.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a huge public process.
Okay, if Ron wants to hear a simple yes or no, yes, we will put it on the ballot. Yes, there will be a vote with regard to it, because we can't get acceptance from the public unless the public is involved in it. But I will say this, and I'll say this to the people that are watching, beyond this room. It is important that you pay attention to what's going on and participate while we're having this conversation, because if you wait till the end and come in at the 11th hour and said, I don't like that, where have you been for the other 10 hours?
And
So-
it doesn't it doesn't serve the purpose if you are starting from the beginning when there is no plan to even attack and you're already putting out disinformation. I really think that it's a service to all of us who live here to actually be informed with the facts so that we can make that decision with the facts, not with other people's assumptions, not with fear tactics that other people will be there. It's something where there will be facts on the table that will be clear and concise, and the people will be able to decide we're not making that
And
decision.
those who were at the assembly last week heard Rob O'Leary, or the week before, heard Rob O'Leary say, he used the word authority to put a stake in the ground, to get people's attention that it could happen. I mean, it probably is a remote possibility, but it's out there. So it's getting people's attention and getting people to engage in the process, which is really why he went to the outermost limit. Yep.
I just want to make a point
David,
about,
Dave, I had to.
Dave Schrofer
Yeah.
from Eastham Town Moderator. I want to make a point about, people are looking at this as a town-by-town issue, and it is not a town-by-town issue. It's a watershed-by-watershed issue.
Exactly.
One of the great risks, and you just pointed out, Madam Chairman, that what happens if Mashpee votes in favor and Falmouth votes against, and that watershed is left with only one town to provide for it. That can't be a possibility. Orleans and Eastham, for instance, on Rock Harbor, the same thing with Brewster and Orleans on Nantucket. All those choices are choices that towns alone can't make. And we have got to grow up and face the fact that we are not a bunch of 15 little towns, most of us much smaller than the large towns over the bridge. We've got to face the fact that we are sharing things. We're sharing a very fragile environment, and it is broken up not by the fine lines of towns, but by the fine lines of watersheds and estuaries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're right. And if there's one area where we need to blur the town lines, it's wastewater.
What better place to do that than at the assembly, where it represents directly all of the towns on the county. And I'm looking forward to getting the assembly members to provide us with input from the people that they see on a regular basis. So I think that's a very important piece of all of this.
Okay. Any other comments on wastewater? Let's move to the environment. This is an interesting recommendation. This asks the county commissioners to develop a strategy, engage in discussions with the Commonwealth and the legislature about providing services currently delivered by the state at the regional level. This is kind of that sustainability for the county, making sure that we have not only the resources, but the ability to engage in the provision of services that will help to sustain us in the future. And they would include but not be limited to health functions, environmental protection functions, public works and highway department functions, housing development, and so forth. So I think this is a really good recommendation because I think it addresses the sustainability, as I said, of the county going forward. But I don't think it's, well, I don't know, I don't want to speak for myself only, that we have to think about where this fits into priorities. Because we have huge priorities with wastewater, we have huge priorities with the governing structure. And I think this is something we need to fold into the priorities, but not something that at this moment we should give an absolute high priority. Maybe sometime June or July would be a time that we could begin to address this one. But we have enough on our plate right now to get started. I don't think we can do it all at once. But that's just my thought.
Although I agree in general with what you're saying, I'm very concerned about assuming responsibility for state-funded operations with using county resources, because we can only task, or only get revenue on a very limited amount from the towns to do these things. And by us taking it over, I would want to have clear guarantees.
The money goes with it.
Well,
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah, well, you'd have to work it
But you'd
that
have to
way.
work it out. I think this is a good recommendation, because I think when we charge them with giving us something that will provide that sustainability and recurring sustainable resources that we really need, and this would do that. But we have a lot of negotiation.
And I'd like to get some feedback, especially from George, and I know George has been actually doing some of these things, especially with DEP, to try to put
That's
together
right. That's a
some
good
of these
point.
regional programs where we take over some of the things that they're doing.
Right.
And it would be fee-based, there'd be a fee base for it, or you'd get revenue from the state. So, but I'd like to get maybe feedback from some of the department managers on where they see opportunities for doing some of these things.
Well, that would be a good thing to have a review with, to have a department head meeting and meet with
Yeah.
them on this. I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that this is something that we should address. I agree, where is it going to be in the order of priorities is one thing, but it is something that we can be having these conversations. The other thing that is interesting about it is talking about the reduction in manpower so that things are taking longer to happen. For instance, down in Eastham, there is a pond that is suffering terribly more as much from runoff as it is from road runoff than it is from anything else. And it really is just a matter of fixing this section of the road. It's a state highway. They have brought these issues to the state, so now they have come to the collaborative through me, and I've gone that we will support those efforts and try to use whatever SWAT and influence we can to have these things addressed sooner than later. That's one recommendation. The other thing, another way that we could coordinate efforts in a more effective way is when we're laying down, when utilities or state highways, if there's some way we can, and Dan Gallagher is very good at is very good at articulating this. We're putting down, we're putting open cape and we're tying them to poles. Now, it would be so much better if we could, there are these new, systems that you can put everything through conduits. And if there's a road being open and there's going to be some utility going in there and we can put the open cape in there, this has to be somehow a coordinated effort in conversation between those departments with the state and with us here so that we can have that. So those are places where I can see where we could really come forward and coordinate and take a lead in that coordination and push for it.
I'm going to point out that, this is a matter that, is discussed at the MPO and the Joint Transportation Committee on a regular basis, and that the sticking point has always been that in the planning phase, when the town is looking at the extra percentage that they have to contribute in order to support that, they back away. It makes no sense to me at all. But indeed, the sticking point has always been at, we're opening up the road, we can put the plastic conduit in, and they invent all of these enormous figures that, that don't make any sense at all. I came from the utility industry, and the figures that they put on it are not connected to reality, and yet there is resistance at the town about doing that.
Well, those would be good areas for us to do that research and to be able to show that this is a cost savings as opposed to
Well, again,
a burden.
this is, I will continue to bring this up at the, at the MPO to DOT, and while in many cases, DOT has been very supportive of things that I think are important, which are sidewalks and things of that sort, there are certain areas that they leave with the town as part of their share, and this is one of the areas that we need to get more education on the part of the town with regard to it.
So that's all involved in this topic. So I think that's it. Yes, it will be dealt with, but we'll have to figure out exactly. I'm taking notes here just so that we're okay. I'm putting them in the categories.
Okay.
So I put this one under department manager feedback, at least for now. We don't have a specific liaison, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay, the next under environment is the Cape Cod mosquito control, moving that to the county. The recommendation is that we explore filing legislation to transfer this program from the state to the county. I think there is a willingness on the part of the mosquito control program, John Doan and
Greg.
Greg
Milne from Barnstable, who's
they're actually the ones that...
they really proposed it.
Yeah.
Actually, John Doan proposed
And,
it to the special
and the
commission.
woman.
So is this something that we could probably explore?
And I think we have to look
I mean,
into that.
I don't think this, I don't know if the state would be even willing to do
we
it.
have to see what
There's another piece that, while it would serve their interest because they, there's, let's see.
The state, you mean?
Well, no, it's a
Or
mosquito control operations looking for, looking for something that is a distinct benefit to their operation. My concern is that if we take this over, what is the extent of our exposure with regard to liability?
That's when I put my finance hat on and
Yeah.
says, sure, the state would love to give it up because then they can say, well, we'll fund you today and, tomorrow, well, we're not going to fund you so much. And then by Thursday, they're not funding you at all.
Right,
you know?
that's our assumption as well. So I think that is something that we'd have to have with a conversation with
we'd
the
have to have a
state and have a
guarantee.
real,
Exactly.
a real
We'd have to have something
agreement
in
with the
stone.
state, yes. But I think
Have
it's worth
somebody,
pursuing.
work with John Doan and really explore some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could bring
Or
John in
maybe
on
we
this
could
and
ask,
Greg.
we wouldn't have to bring them in, just ask them to give us a feasibility plan about how this would work, what some of the
Caveats.
sticky issues
Issues
are
are,
in
yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
liability and all that, and present us with a proposal.
I think that's a
They're
good
sort of a
path to take.
hybrid now because they're in our retirement, I believe. So they're
Are
in
they?
our health insurance. I don't think they're in the GIC. So they're sort of an in-betweener now anyways. But it's, to me, the funding is the
Yeah.
Yeah.
big concern.
Well,
from
maybe
my
they could
perspective.
do the work with the state and present
Well,
us with a
they're the ones
proposal
that
that
are
the
proposing
state
the
might
benefit.
go along with.
And I think that part of that proposal should say what's in it for us.
They'll pre-fund them for 20
But
years.
I think it would be good to have Greg and John come in and speak to us about
I
that.
think that's a good idea.
Well,
And-
after they
and-
get their ideas together. then.
Well, even
Yeah.
even if they don't, I mean, just to say that we support this, but we need to know more, and this is what we would like you to do.
I think we already know of their interest of joining us. I think this is the point where we
Yeah.
charge
Yeah.
them with coming up with a proposal
Proposal,
that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, they were very articulate at the special commission meeting,
Mm-hmm.
those of you who were there. I think they made their point very well. So I think the next step is, put some
Put some meat
meat
on
on
the
the
bones,
bones and get something to us that makes sense.
Okay.
Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay, number 5, the Cape Light Compact and CBEC.
Well,
The recommendation is the county should recognize and clarify its vital role with the compact and the synergy it can help to create between the compact and other regional agencies. I think there's a lot of visibility right now, obviously, with the compact and CBEC. So it seems to me that maybe it might be good for us to meet with the board of the compact and discuss some of these recommendations with the board and explore with them how we can clarify the roles. Is that
the roles-
something?
okay.
Oh, yeah, as Mr. Chairman.
right,
So-
okay. Since I am the chair of the Cape Light
I know.
Compact, we would always welcome an open discussion with regard to explaining and clarifying what the Cape Light Compact does. But I will start off by saying that the Cape Light Compact was created by a municipal agreement,
Right, an intermunicipal
an
agreement.
MOU,
Yeah.
that was signed off on by the 21 towns that are members. That the policy board that is created, that maintains the operation, makes those decisions with regard to its operation, are ones that represent the interest of the towns that have appointed people to that board. I think the area that is worth opening up is whether or not the county wants to continue to maintain the administrative management contract that basically supports the operation, because the MOU does not provide a means by which they can collect, distribute money. This is what the county does for them. The suggestion that it become a county department flies in the face.
It doesn't say it become a county department.
says
It
down
says
here-
clarify its role.
Well, it says here that,
No, which number?
let's see, down number,
It's number 6, a
Number
structural
6, as a
option, it
structural
could be
option. Oh.
part of the
county should
county.
examine
It
the
does say
potential
it could
for...
be. Well, I mean, we can explore.
Yeah,
The-
well, and so how would that happen? So
We have the Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op, which indeed is a regional,
That's a 501c3.
Excuse me, but
That's totally
It
different.
also says an alternative to formation of a long-term contract, that it could consider a revision of intermunicipal agreement in making the compact a county program. And I think that is something, number one, I think that the roles do have to be clarified, and that has to be written
which would
clearly.
explain that.
Well,
But, you know-
well, the
explain it
fact
to me.
that nobody really
Well, we don't wanna
understood it,
debate
and I'm not
that
going to
today.
debate that today, and I'm not out to say everything is good or bad, or I'm saying to make things clear as to what our relationship is, our influence, our authority, is not clear. It says that we are listed as a department. It has not been clear. It's been very confusing, which is part of the problem. So I think that is something that we need to address in our literature, in our presentation, and in our understanding with the public. Now, if we want to go further with this and say, before we, say that we're totally have no influence, what is the benefit of having the influence when it comes to establishing a regional energy policy throughout the county and establishing maybe a potential cooperative electrical cooperative authority, power
A
authority.
regional power authority.
A regional power authority. Those are things that, we might not want to just say we have no control, no influence on that. So I think it deserves the conversation. It deserves a conversation that's objective and non-defensive, and to be able to look at the pros and the cons of these statements that are made here. And that's all,
So I'm
but
going to
it's not
suggest that since there are only 3 of us and 20-some of them, that, 25, that we ask them for some time on their agenda, give them a copy of this recommendation, and say we would like to meet with them and discuss items 1 through 7. Well, 1 through 6, because 7 is really CBEC. So we want to take those that are related to Cape Light Compact and have a discussion about these in open session, about these recommendations and what they think about them. And that's what I'm going to suggest for now.
Okay, our next
Because we
meeting.
do need to, because since Cape Light Compact was created, it has grown, obviously, by leaps and bounds, and it has become a very self-sustaining at this point operation. And it isn't what it was in the beginning, where it needed a lot of support from the county. So I think it would be really appropriate to have that discussion with the board of the compact and explore these. So that's my suggestion, and then we can move on, if that's agreeable.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that maybe somewhere in that conversation, it would be good to have some sort of legal opinion from people who understand that utility. I know that the Cape Light Compact has their attorney, but somebody, that might be one attorney's opinion. So it'd be good to have an alternative, say, on the county side, like, well, this is why it would be good for you, and this is why it would be good for you. And somebody that's objective, but is
Well, that
also a
could come out of
utility.
the discussion. I mean, depending upon what comes out of the discussion, it might lead us in some different directions, which would then, we would say, well, now we have to come back, and maybe we got a little task force together and explore some of these and see how we can certainly clear up some of the issues that are out there, and at the same time really clarify what the relationship is between the compact and the county, if there is one, or if there should be one, or if we want it to grow and be
we know
better.
what the impediments are.
Exactly.
Some of that. But just to clarify, the CVEC's not a 501c3.
Oh, it
It's
isn't?
not,
It says it
no,
is in here.
It is not. It is
Oh, it is not a-
organized under, it is a nonprofit cooperative. I don't know exactly what its IRS
It's a
like
nonprofit
designation is,
cooperative.
but it's not a 501c3.
Okay, well, we need to correct that.
Oh, and there is one other thing in here on the Cape Light Compact. They are not required to have a lower rate than NSTAR. That's not a requirement. They are charged with finding the most, cost savings that are available. But there's not a specific thing where they're supposed to. Because the practical medicines are buying product from in the same place that NSTAR is. They have been very successful in meeting or coming below NSTAR over the years, but that's not a specific requirement in the charter. With regard to, and I'll leave it after this, with regard to the specific role of the Cape Light Compact, the county has an administrative management contract to manage the administration of it. All policy with regard to operations is done by the Cape Light Compact Board, and that board is the one that's appointed. Our next meeting is April 11th. After that, we will be meeting in May, and that's when we're going through the budget cycle. I will make sure that you're invited on the agenda. We usually meet
Well,
the
no, we
same
want to
day.
have a planned agenda. We just don't want to come in and have a,
Could you suggest?
we want to have,
Yeah, we
we
will.
want to be able to
Could you
discuss
suggest then the kinds of issues you want to discuss, and we'll arrange to
We'll
put that in
numbers,
there?
we will put together some more specific
Mm-hmm.
statements regarding 1 through 6 that we think that we would like to discuss. How about that? I'll put those together.
Well, I think I'm just going to
And they'll
skim
be
it through and
given
make
ahead
sure.
of time so people
Sounds like
can
you
think about it.
definitely sort of want an overview about the roles and responsibilities and the relationship. That seems to be a point of maybe misidentification or whatever you want to call it. Some would say it's not clear. Some others would say it is clear. But I think so people need to see this is what it is.
I think there's enough people who think it's not clear that we should clarify it and have it sit down on paper so
Yeah,
we can
I
say
don't
this is it.
disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, we provided some administrative services. And are we
And our
the fiscal
service.
agent?
Yes, we
We are
are.
the fiscal agent.
And so what is the
And so we need to
responsibility and
clear up
liability
what
of that
means.
role? Exactly.
Well, it's like, being a fiscal agent is really, it's just like hiring a firm outside. They hire us, the county, to be the fiscal agency, but we have no effect on policy.
We might
They
not have
could
effect
hire
on policy, but
us-
we have some responsibility that the money that is being funneled through us is being used in the way it was appropriated on one end, that it's being used on the other. And that is, and if that
hear you.
isn't our responsibility, then that needs to
Okay.
be clear.
clarified.
Then-
You're absolutely
then
right.
Let me not leave this meeting without saying that in the many years that the Cape Light Compact has existed, that it has been audited on the county audit, there has never been a finding with regard to our operation as the fiscal agent. So the concern that I have, let me finish. The concern that I have is that the conversation that suggests that there's a suspicion on the part of the county commissioners with regard to how the county is handling its role with regard to that fiscal responsibility is something that is of great concern. And I think that that you should be aware by reading the Cape Light Compact legislation and by the fact that we have appeared before you and presented the administrative management issues, that by now, it should be no doubt in your mind with regard to where we are with regard to that responsibility.
Okay, if I just may, I'm not out to say that we have done anything wrong, and we represent this county, so I am not, and if there is something, I understand the audit, but there are recommendations in the audit where some things could be done better. And I think it's our responsibility.
Not for the Cape Light Compact.
I think if we had.
Not for the Cape Light Compact.
Okay.
That have to do with a
Bill,
state
please.
program.
So I think we know where we're going.
Yeah,
With-
right,
So-
we're going in
Yeah,
areas
all
that we
I'm
want to
saying is-
discuss with the
I'm
compact.
I'm not attacking,
here.
I'm not accusing, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying, these things need to be clarified for the public's information and for our own understanding.
Number 7, the CVEC. We also need to do the same with CVEC.
Yes.
We need to have a discussion. And also, there is a huge difference between being a fiscal agent and having fiduciary responsibility. We have no fiduciary responsibility for either one of these organizations. They have fiduciary responsibility for their own funding.
Correct.
We do. We simply provide the financial services, like any financial services group. If you had a payroll service, they're the fiscal agent for. You could go to, what is it? Data. ADP or something. They provide a payroll service. We kind of do that for the compact and for CVAC. Not payroll, but they're expensive. So number 7, I would say the same with meeting with the board of CVAC.
Yeah.
And really exploring the relationship. What was it? What is it now? And what do we think it should be in the future?
Right.
Not only for the benefit of CVAC, but also for the benefit of the county, so that these blurred lines that people seem to think exist really become more clear. Okay, number 6, economic development. The Workforce Investment Board and Service Delivery Administrator under the county. The recommendation, they would like the county to consider, county CEO, consider entering into discussions with the administrator and the Local Workforce Investment Board about designating the county as, well, as the fiscal agent. The county used to be the fiscal agent.
We used to get the grant money,
If-
yeah. It used to
and
come
then-
directly to us, and it was like a pass-through.
There was a pass-through.
If I may, if you look at the original agreement and that was made between the workforce investment and the county, some of this language is already in there, that there should be an annual review of the plan going forward, the goals and strategies going forward. The reason that there is a WIB here is that the county is looked at as the fiscal agent. Somewhere in the past, it was decided, just because of it saved on paperwork, to give it directly to them. However, we are still listed as that fiscal agent, and we do have that responsibility. Most of these, they're already written into the contract and they haven't been done. There is definitely a role for the county here, and it's a role of helping even coordinate efforts more. I am exploring this in detail. I'm talking to lots of people in WIBs across the state, and I do not have anything to recommend, but it's something that I think that we shouldn't just say we're not interested in. I think it's something we should say we're interested in. How it will change, I'm not sure. It might be just, again, a clarification of roles and responsibilities. But I don't know if it's always the best thing for that to go directly there, because there is a lack of, when you keep doing things on your own, and I'm not saying that they're doing a bad job at all, and I'm not making any assumption, but in general, if you keep doing things the way you're doing things for a long time, and there's really nobody to say, are we doing this right? Even though there is a board review, and I know that they went through their board review, but I know of an agency right now, I know of agencies that have had all of those wonderful things happen, and there was a big financial liability happening, and nobody knew it, even though they got rave reviews out of audits, and they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So I think it's worth our while not just to toss it aside. We are the designated elected official, and it is our responsibility to make sure, I am, but as that, and as the county's representative, I'm taking it seriously. I'm not ready to make any recommendation yet, other than I think that could be put down on the priority list.
So when would you like to bring
I
this
have
back?
a question
Well,
In a couple of
let's
to
months.
see.
point out.
Well, no, let's just say, when do you want to?
I would have at least a
In the
month
fall?
away
Oh, a
before
month?
I could, a month or two, or, sorry, the
June?
fall.
September?
Let's say by September I will have a recommendation.
Well, come
And
back
if there's
with at
something
least
earlier,
a
I
report.
will let you know. I'll give you
Okay.
periodic updates
So
on
we'll
what I'm
take this up
discovering.
again in September.
So-
Bill?
Okay. Number one, as the chief elected official, you sign off on their strategic plan every year. Okay, so if there was let me finish. If there was a problem with the plan, you have your opportunity to review it and approve it, because without that, it would not go forward. Second, I was on that board for several years, and when I left, they had received recognition by the state as being a high-performing workforce board. And I don't understand what's happened in the last 2
Nothing has
years.
happened. I'm not saying that they're not a high-performing workforce board.
And-
The people on there are very dedicated to what they're doing. It's a great board. What I'm saying is there something we could do better? That might mean strengthening a relationship, changing a relationship, or just having that conversation with the board in a little bit more detail without everybody getting defensive.
Well,
And I don't
you
think
have
that's a
the
bad thing.
So
You have
you're
the
the
opportunity.
liaison.
I'm the liaison, and I
you're
will
gonna bring
report
back a
back
report in
periodically.
September.
Yeah.
Since you approved the strategic plan, that is
The
your
first
opportunity
strategic
to...
plan was already done, signed, and bound when I was made the CEO. The second one, I have not been part of an executive committee,
We're not-
so
let's
please.
not argue this.
I'm not
Let's
going to argue this.
set
It
this-
needs a review. And I'm trying to take responsibility and fulfill the responsibility I've been given. And so that's for me to understand what that is. When I have an understanding that's clear and concise, you will all know it, of what I believe we should be doing as a
We are going to take this up
county.
again in September. And now we're going to move on to economic development. The recommendation, well, this is really already underway. This
Yeah,
is
it
the
is.
SEDS.
Right.
And we continue with the SEDS, which I think is, whoops, I went too fast. So I don't think anybody wants to dispute the moving forward with the SEDS.
Nope.
No, I think we've already endorsed that.
And that's really the public-private partnerships, working with the working with the Cape Cod Chamber. This is all really well underway, but I think again,
So you're the liaison, right?
yeah, so I'm the liaison, so I will do the same. I will provide quarterly reports at our meeting. And we will schedule these well in advance so that we'll have a calendar from now until the end of the year. Since we don't know if we're going to be here after the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, at least
We'll
till
have a
November.
calendar.
Yeah, well, till the end of
At
the year.
least through the end of the
Yeah, the end of the
year.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's my responsibility. Okay.
Okay.
All right, 8, regional umbrella services. I think we've really taken this up.
Yep.
There is no question that we, now, wait a
The
minute.
only problem I have with this is the,
Well, wait a minute, we're only on number 8. The special commission is supportive to the county efforts to develop the RUS for the aggregation of services, technology services, and so forth. We've already committed to being that the RUS will come under county government. Right now, you all know we received the grant from the state for $500,000 to do the e-permitting, which the e-permitting is dependent upon the RUS being functioning properly. And also the grant, just to reiterate again, this was a $4 million grant under the regional planning for the state. 100 cities and towns applied, 28 received the grants. Of the 28, the county received the most money, which is $500,000, which is more than the city of Boston got out of the grant. So we really were the recipient of the largest amount of money under this grant, which I think is pretty amazing.
yes, it is.
And
Of course, I voted for that
yes,
last week.
right.
But the other issue is they mentioned Russ and Open Cape in the same voice. And I thought we cleared that up last week, that they were not connected.
Not here. Oh, here, yeah, it
Right,
is.
Yes.
No, they are not
They are two
connected.
different.
So I want to make that, I
Open
want
Cape
to make sure that we keep
allows-
emphasizing that.
I hope we clarified that.
Yes.
Open Cape is the highway, and the Russ is the driver.
Yes.
So
So
the
the Russ
highway is down,
is the
they're
car.
gone, Open Cape is gone, and then Russ takes over.
It's the regional area network that we will be administering.
That will be
and-
coming up
and
soon, the
coming
regional
up
area
soon.
network.
Russ
Who funds it?
exists regardless of whether Open Cape.
Right, well, once Open Cape is done, it'll be done by January of 2013, so it will no longer, it will be the network that we will be,
As I understood what Paul Nazuki said last week, was that it would provide an enhanced capacity to improve the performance of the RUS, but it was not necessary for the RUS, and the RUS is existing as a county function, and the Open Cape is still, operating as Open Cape and has its own promotion line that it's doing.
right. And, this is all part of the Strategic Information Office, is I guess what we will call it, for lack of a better word.
What are you
However,
including in that? Are you including just the RUS, not the Open Cape?
You guys have already
We've
adopted some
already
very
done this, so
specific
let's
information.
just
Right,
move on to the
exactly.
next one.
Okay.
We've already
It is a little after 2. Our agenda does say that at 2 o'clock, there was a potential for an executive session to discuss strategies
here.
with respect to litigation. That is not going to happen. There's no need to do the executive session today. There's been some change to the issue, so we don't need to take it up today. So I would suggest that we finish with 9 and 10 and 11 today, and then we take up governance next week at our next meeting, because that's going to be a much longer discussion. And if that's all right, we can finish with this and then move on.
and just to get back to the rest, I'm going to put down that Paul Nitzwicki, because we did charge him of sort of looking
He's
at
already
at the
scheduled
board and all, so
quarterly
he's
to
already
meet
done
with
that.
us.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So, public safety emergency management. The recommendation here, well, this is a little complex. And I'm hearing from fire chiefs that there's
Yes.
Usually they're such wallflowers.
a lot, so,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, yeah, right.
well, one of the fire chiefs,
Are they all
he said to me, "You're responsible for this, so what are you going to do about it?"
You know what I would do?
Well,
Let's turn it over to Sean and ask him.
Right.
So this is what I put down. I said,
all right, what
so
did
we
you put
have
down
the
for 9?
911.
Because this is really an internal department.
Well, we sort of have this report out there. We have
Yes.
this 911
And we should
communication
discuss
report.
that.
And we need to kind of look at that. And you have the REPC obviously working a lot on this out there.
The REPC.
And it does. It kind of goes back to what I would
Regional
do.
emergency planning.
Regional Emergency Planning
Just so
Committee.
people know what we talk
I'm
about when we
sorry.
say REPSI.
And of course, that's a group of all of the police and fire chiefs and now health officials that meet on an ongoing basis, coordinated by Sean O'Brien, who's their coordinator, employee of the county,
Right.
to discuss public safety issues, emergency response planning, all of those good things. We're sort of way ahead of the curve on a lot of other parts of the state. So what I would ask is that Sean take a look at number 9,
And 10.
and with respect to the 9/11 report and other things that REPC is doing, and come back and bring back to you a set of recommendations or issues or whatever you want to call
I
it.
think that would be very helpful because there's a great deal of concern among the fire chiefs and the providers of CMed that we move on this, that we do something. They have the
Yeah.
report, and maybe he should come in and we should discuss the report
The
of the study
9/11,
that they did,
yeah, the
and
9/11.
see where's our role here and what can we do to help move this
Yeah.
along. Because, well, we all know what happened on the South Shore, the 4 towns, what is it, Hull, Hingham, Hanover, and Norwell, I think,
Yeah.
are the 4 towns. They were able to build a regional dispatch center with $6 million of
Right.
state funds. And they're all, and through it, there was some attrition in the towns, but some of the remaining dispatchers were all moved to this one central dispatch center.
Right.
And they're doing all of that for those 4 towns. And we should be able to do that too.
Right,
And
well,
we should
that's
be
what-
able to access those
We have to
DPH
move
funds.
to the sort of less PSAPs is what they call them,
Yes.
the public safety
Right.
access point or whatever.
Access points,
Yeah.
right.
So that's the whole theory behind it.
So he should also maybe deal with 10 as well.
Yeah.
10 being
Yeah, maybe we could have them coming in.
exactly.
That whole
That's the
Take
same
9 and
thing,
10,
yeah.
come back to us.
Sure.
And then, and so I'm, as the liaison to that, I will be in coordinating with Sean
Okay.
and reporting back on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Yes.
We've made great, and the only thing I bring up with this is we've made great strides in creating an atmosphere of cooperation in the public safety community. And I hope as we move forward on this that we maintain that spirit of cooperation, because it has meant a lot with regard to how we are regarded with regard to grants and to
Right.
support from external places. So I guess there's that middle line that we have to follow, that we look to the interest of the community, but we also try to maintain a solid relationship that we work very hard to maintain, and which Sean has made a significant
Yes,
contribution to.
He really has.
Oh, Sean's
He
done a good
truly
job.
has. I mean, I can't tell you how that EOS, Emergency Operations Center, worked during the last hurricane.
Yeah, right.
It was amazing. The coordination that he was able to provide the state, the county, and the
Right.
towns working together. What a huge difference it made,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, I should mention we have a terrific relationship with MEMA, the Mass Emergency Management
Right.
Agency now too, so.
Dave,
Just a brief comment, Dave Schrofer from Eastham. I'm also chair of the intermunicipal group that covers the 4 outer Cape towns. When we looked into PSAPs, public safety answering points, we found that the larger the number of towns in a single point increases the amount of money. So when you got to 4 towns in the whole example that you were giving, it went to $6 million. Our PSAP at Otis, run by Barnstable County Sheriff, is at a point that 1 or 2 more towns will substantially increase the amount of money that they're getting from the state. So the more towns that go, the more money that goes that way, and the more support that they'll give, even to the individual towns, to make the software adjustments and the hardware adjustments that are necessary to make the system work. And like you, I have been to that location, I watched them handle emergencies, and it is truly, I don't think when the first man was on the moon that we had technology that looked like what they have.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can see all the ambulances that are on the road on the whole Cape. You
what's
know where they are
Yeah, you know where they are.
at any given time.
Right. There's not only that, but if there is an emergency in your home, they can zero in on that house. They'll know where the entrances are. If if it's a fire or if it's an emergency, you have to get in on, do they have a dog, is there?
They know where the fire
all of those
hydrant
things,
is.
and they'll know just exactly how to enter that house. It's so much more sophisticated than on a town by
And
town
for a
level.
building, they know where all of the dangerous materials, explosive materials, toxins, all those things,
Exactly.
all located within the building.
Right. No,
It's
it's
really-
really
it's-
something else.
It's truly state-of-the-art.
Number 11.
Number 11,
on
that's you,
that-
Sheila.
Yeah, it is, and I
Health and
do,
Human Services, so let's talk about the
recommendation
recommendation.
first.
That the Department of Health and the Environment, which is George Whitefelder,
Yeah.
the Cooperative Extension,
Bill
Bill Clark, and the Department of Human Services continue to collaborate, strengthen links among departments, and plan for greater efficiencies in the area of regional public health.
There's only one thing that's left off on this, and that is the, the opportunity that the Cape Cod Commission also has that hazardous waste participation, as well as the hazardous materials, and they do put out their own emergency response plan. And I think that perhaps that should
You
be
mean the
included.
Cape Cod Commission?
Cape Cod Commission.
Right.
And they're not mentioned in here. So
Right, to coordinate with Bill Clark's department more
with
on
all
that.
of these departments.
Right.
Because I think that's an important piece, that we keep emphasizing the importance for interaction among all of the county departments.
Right.
And I think that the Cape Cod Commission
Should be
should
included in
should be
that?
included in this.
Just so that it's not
particular piece.
forgotten. I agree, and I do think that that happens. And there's also, on this, I would like to be able to, and I think that more and more, this team, with Beth here now, and she understands how she can interact with these departments and with the commission. They're doing lots of work with the Cape Cod Commission right now on that Mass in Motion grant. The other thing that was stated at the special commission by Paul Rashinskas and by Beth is that there is a strong relationship. He says, I probably deal with Beth on housing, with the Human Services Department on housing issues more than any other department in the whole area. So and Beth has some very thoughtful ideas and observations on this. So I think it would be good to get a hold of her and just talk about, what can we do to, because housing, not only do we need jobs, but if we have jobs with nobody can live here, they go hand in hand. So if there's any way that we can maximize the ability of having, increasing our housing stock for workforce, it would be to our benefit, and it's worth having the conversation. So I would recommend that she come in and talk about that, maybe with Paul Rashinskas.
I think that the
That
two
would
of
be
them
a-
coming in would be very
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, that would be a very good idea. We schedule
Okay.
a meeting with them
All right.
and talk about that, and just see where
Where we can
Where the
beef up
leaps
that
and
role
bounds
of-
are
yeah.
in
What
terms
are
of
the is there possibilities? Are there areas that we could actually increase and maximize those efforts and
And what
we're
would-
not doing it
what
by
would help
working in
facilitate that,
separate.
yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds good. And then next week, we'll take up 12 through 17. What everybody wanted to hear today.
Yes.
Well,
I wanted to
that
hear
will
it
be a
too.
very focused discussion,
Right.
certainly next week.
So 12
Okay.
through 17
We'll take up next
Okay.
week. So what time are we going to meet next week so that so the people here today don't
The
have to
only
wait till
thing
Friday to
is to
find
keep
out?
in mind, if you care at all about the assembly, they have a meeting at 2 o'clock where all of the
Next
all the standing committees are reporting to the finance committee, right, at 2 o'clock? So maybe
April 4th,
Yeah, so maybe noon, 2 hours,
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
that we meet noon to
Now?
2?
Oh, yeah.
noon next week.
No, it's next week, next
Or
Wednesday.
do 11:30.
I have a dentist appointment at 12, because I thought we were moving.
Well, we could do it in the morning.
We can do it in the
it's-
morning. 10,
It doesn't matter.
10 to 12? That works for me.
It's okay with me.
That's fine with me, we can have a couple hours, right? I think that, and a couple errands.
I would have to leave to get to the dentist at 12.
Okay,
Well,
That's
we
all
should
right.
be pretty
When you're
well.
So we'll
done,
do 10 to 12.
we'll
Pass
Make some
everything.
changes.
Good idea.
that's right. Yeah, we're gonna
So-
make it.
so we'll meet at 10
We'll do what we really
Commissioners.
want. So 10 o'clock or 9:30 to 11:30? I don't, it doesn't matter to me.
9:32.
Throwing out suggestions.
What?
Yeah, let's just do it.
It's just
Yeah, 10 o'clock
o'clock.
next week.
10 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all
You're
for
not
being here.
adjourned, because we
No,
just
I
have-
know.
No,
we're
we're
not
just, we
adjourned.
have other things to do.
We
So you're
have
welcome to stay.
We're going to move to our Commissioners' actions, we have the minutes of,
Take care, Tony.
March 21st.
Okay, I'll move to approve those. Are we supposed to also have a vote to approve the minutes of March 14th?
Yeah, do we have those
Well, I'm
minutes?
looking to see here.
According
We
to
have only the
Kara, she said
We
we
haven't
had-
seen those minutes.
Kara did not have
didn't
them.
have
She
them
wrote a
last
memo
week.
saying that she didn't have the votes that were taken, and
Because
she
we
didn't
didn't have the
have
minutes.
any minutes. There was
according to
nobody
her,
here that
she said we
took
signed the
minutes.
I gave her what I had, so anything after I left, you were supposed to do.
No, but
Look
also,
at
you know, somebody has to watch the video.
You didn't have any votes, did you? After
We
I
didn't
left?
We had
vote.
the Rust vote.
We had the
Yeah, I
rest
took
vote.
that
That's
one.
recorded.
I was there for
We
that.
had no votes after that.
No, I didn't.
No, okay.
There weren't
But we
any.
did not vote the minutes because we didn't have them.
I didn't see
According
the
to Kara,
minutes.
she said we signed off on them. Because I asked her, I said, the reason why we didn't approve them,
Wait a
I
minute,
mean,
I'll
the
do
reason
this
why...
is just
Well,
the
if we
This is
21st.
of March 14th.
If we signed
Yeah.
off on them, that goes to show what we did.
We started, only one of us signed them.
Okay.
And we
Oh, maybe
signed them
that's why.
because we hadn't seen them.
Okay, well, I'll
So
have
we
her
need to bring them-
redistribute March 14th, and then we can do those.
Yes, and now we're going to vote the minutes of March 21st.
21st.
Okay, I'll move them.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, unanimous.
Okay.
Now we're going to vote the summary of actions, which we,
Okay, I have no questions. so I'll move them.
yes. There are 19 for today. I don't have any questions on them either.
I didn't either, so I will move the
I've
summary of
moved them
actions.
already.
Okay.
Oh, second, sorry.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, unanimous.
Aye.
And individual reports.
Um,
Up here, I'll put this in here. You can start signing.
Thank you.
When do we
You
meet
have a
at the
re-
21st?
What's that?
The 21st is the last meeting?
Yes.
Let's see. I don't usually talk about, about my program, but I had,
What program?
one that I do,
County.
county chatter. I had the paid executive for the young professionals on, let's see, Ann Van Vleck. And it was very interesting that she brought up the fact that their concern about jobs on the Cape goes beyond just, just supporting the young professionals, that there is a need for more of both the individual entrepreneurs and also the members of middle management to get behind some of the issues that we have in creating jobs. And, that her operation, the young professionals, is trying to get a focus on that, where the Chamber of Commerce is looking at established businesses and established people. She's reaching out, and her organization is reaching out to, let's say, the people that are beginning, because when we talk about what are we doing to support the the younger members of our community who are trying to stay here, she's actually trying to reach out to that particular group to try to find some support for them. So I think that that's a very important point, and one that I was very happy to hear. But it needs more publicity, because when we talk about economic development and jobs, we seem to focus on our Economic Development Committee, we focus on the Chamber of Commerce, but we're not focusing on what I'd call networking organizations that are trying to see what we have here and try to support the community that's already here. So,
Well, it
What
would
was her
be
name?
nice,
I'm sorry,
What
what
was
was
her
her
name?
name?
Ann Van Vleck.
it would be nice if she maybe worked with the Chamber or came to the Smarter Cape Cod Summit, because we're going to be looking at the impact of Open Cape and e-permitting on the Cape, because the technology, you have to read that article in Forbes magazine about Fairfax County and technology that is now, and even will be more in the near future, available to governments to be able to get their job done. It's absolutely unbelievable. And we are going to have that here. We're going to have the highway to enable us to go out and gather in software applications and technology that is just going to be unbelievable. And that's, I think, where a lot of the jobs can be, is for young people, because they all like that stuff anyway. They grew up with it from kindergarten or before.
I don't know if it was this year. It may have been, let's say, 2 years ago. Fairfax County did a workshop at NACO with regard to, to their virtual activities and how they've been permitting, things like that. And I believe I can get some, well, the article probably had some.
You should
reports
read
had
that,
some
I'm telling
content,
you. It's like 8 pages long. It's really amazing.
Forbes.
In Forbes, yeah.
The other thing I was
I mean,
thinking
it's
about.
not always, Forbes is not necessarily on my reading list, but I happen to see
Very
this.
impressed.
Well, I saw you correct the between to among, so you sound like an English teacher there. I was
No,
like, oh my
I
God,
don't
that's
do
an
that.
English
No,
teacher.
no. I went through Catholic grade school, and let me tell you, you parsed sentences and you did all those things, so that's the thing with me.
When I parsed sentences for the kids in 5th grade, now they wanted to know what I was doing.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the other thing that comes to mind, Bill mentioned that, is maybe there's some synergies that you can achieve with AmeriCorps, because AmeriCorps, young
that's
kids,
true, too.
blah, 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 they come to the Cape, so they might be able to help her sort of identify what opportunities are out there, what the positives are, what the negatives are that you need to kind of, what some of the challenges for young people
I think that's a
are.
great idea.
It is, because remember, we learned this past year that more AmeriCorps volunteers came back.
Yeah,
They
that's
they
exactly
got
my
jobs on the
point.
Cape.
Yeah.
So if
That
they're
attracts
out
it,
all over the
that they're
place,
attracting, yeah,
and they maybe are in the environmental sector,
exactly. That's a big,
and if they have an interest in that,
Right.
there might be jobs out there for them.
Well, this is another this would be another person that you would want to have invite into the WIB and just to talk about her concerns and what is it they've been doing, because they have done management programs, they have done, they have CNA and that sort of thing, but what is that middle or lower or just the tier right below middle to get you to, what are those jobs that are needed out there and necessary? So it would be good to have young people come in and talk about that. That's why I took her name.
Or
out.
even,
I'll find her from the Young Professionals group.
Yeah,
these are young people who come from outside the Cape, so they can kind of
Yeah.
tell you what are the
They know
issues
it,
when
yeah.
they're here,
And sometimes it's also
and-
like there's,
And they get around.
and then what do you do
to all the
afterward?
towns.
Right, exactly.
There's that too. So we have to provide some sort of
Yeah,
village
so
life.
I think they're,
let me forward your email.
They-
So they're a
Okay.
good resource.
they're
Yeah.
yes, they should be mined.
Okay. And
Why am I doing
after you do
this?
that, Bill, what else have you been?
That was the main thing.
That's what I was looking for.
If you don't mind, I have just 2 things.
Oh, yes.
So
your
I
report.
mentioned one already, and Janice O'Connell over at the Assembly sent out sort of their next steps on the Assembly budget process. And April 4th, I mentioned Finance Committee, John Ullman is meeting with all the standing committee chairs. They give their report to him, so that's good. Then on April 18th, I'm going to go over and do the sort of, there's a public hearing on the
April
budget,
18th.
the overall, the Finance Committee does their
Oh,
overall
yeah.
budget. So I'll go over and give a little presentation, and whoever else from the public wishes
Is-
to present
Is
usually
that
does.
early or is that at the
That's
4?
2 o'clock as well.
It's 2 o'clock.
And then on May 2nd, they are scheduled to vote on the county budget at their regular meeting,
Ah,
4 o'clock.
Now,
okay.
since I saw you, all right. So last Wednesday was meals, Mayors on Wheels, or Mayors for Meals. So I went around with a wonderful gentleman, Dave Ricketts. It's not a good English name, Dave Ricketts. But anyway, he was my driver, and we delivered probably 20 meals to homebound senior citizens in Wellfleet and Truro. And that was really an amazing experience because you got to go into some people's homes, have chats with them. What was this meaning? Some people this was a temporary service. Some people, you've done it yourselves. So it was a very good insight, and the Elder Services does a great job. And I then came back, and there were so many people at the COA having lunch that sign up for it each day. They sign up for that far in advance. So I know that each town, we contribute to Elder Services in a large way. Each town does a proportional share. Many towns do. So for those who don't, I just recommend that you do. It is really a very needed service. And for some people, you could see that they had help come in or some family connection. But I think that even that one stop off a day is a social contact for them. The other thing I did attend, and I just, now that I have the League of Women Voters here, they had a wonderful breakfast at the Four Cs on Friday morning, a legislative breakfast, and it was very interesting. There was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of talk about the county, quite frankly. A lot of their deliberations on the special governance and their thoughts on wastewater, and they are supportive in this effort. And I do think that if all things are spelled out clearly, they're more than happy to be of assistance. But they also want to be on the, they have questions that they want to make sure are answered as well. So I thought that was a great breakfast. It was a great venue. The Four Cs, we had it in the LaRousse Technology Building. It was a beautiful room. It was really a nice place. It was a day like this, but it felt airy, as somebody said, like in the trees. So that was very good. And the legislative breakfast, Meals on Wheels, the regional network convened on Monday morning, and I am now the sole chair of that. Estella has resigned from her position, so we're going to figure out how we're going to. Does anybody feel like they need a co-chair? Paula Schnipp is our coordinator through Beth's department, and she's doing a great job in really keeping that network together. As I said, that we did receive the best award of our regional plan going forward, and we have been invited to the State House in May to present it to all of the other regional networks, and we're going to get kudos. Well, hopefully. Well, and we're also going to take that opportunity. We hope to coordinate it with the legislation, just to let them know that the things that are in the budget this year are good things. There's raft money put back in, which is prevention money, and it's a little bit more flexible. There's a flexibility component as opposed to it has to be just for this income group type of person, age group, that sort of thing. So it's all very good stuff. And now we're reconvening our groups on seniors, vets, youth and families, children and families, youth, and senior citizens. So we are all breaking back into our subcommittee groups and putting together implementation plans. So we just don't want that to just sit on a shelf either. So that is all good. And the other thing I wanted to say, there was a meeting this yesterday morning, and that was very well attended. And Dan Gallagher presented Open Cape, so that was fascinating for that whole group, and people were very excited about that. And because it's, some of the people are just sort of hearing about it, and they're like, how are you going to get some of these towns together? And I said, we already had 15 sign up for different things, so they were like really surprised that we were as far ahead as we were. So it goes to show you where everybody's paying attention. And then I sat in on the strategic planning for a retreat for the Arts Foundation yesterday. And that was Kevin Howard's doing a very nice job. He's pulling people together, and it's a great board. And they're really just trying to figure out ways to not be in the black where they're so wealthy that, they don't mind being in the red a little bit, but you don't want to be in the red that you can't perform the service that your mission asks you to do. So there's some exciting ideas going forward on to how to maximize presence and to reach out to people that really, people look at the Arts Foundation and they think pops, but they really do. The summer concert series, they put on over 50 concerts from Bourne to Provincetown, free throughout all the towns for visitors. Mm-hmm. They provide education and opportunities in the schools. They support, struggling artists out there in promoting their work and helping them with business plans. They do a lot more. They bring the museums together, the art galleries together on a common mission. So they do a lot of work that people need to know about, and they are a nonprofit. It is a foundation, and they are, they're as bad. I said, you're as bad as we are. It's almost like you're apologizing to say, this is what we do. Can we have a little bit of money? We have to pay for this. They are great at doing what they do, but they're not as great as letting all of those details out there to the public. And the summertime is their best time, and they have audiences right in front of them. If we could all be so lucky. So I said, so I'm recommending that they do their pitch and a little bit more education and outreach. But so it's all a great group. They work very hard, and they're very dedicated to our cultural and artistic community.
I only had two. I attended a dedication of a new bus shelter, which I know you'll be very happy to hear. That was in Falmouth, and it was in front of a Dunkin' Donuts, where not only do the RTA buses stop, but the school buses stop there as well. So it was a huge
Did it have
crowd.
Bill's name on it?
Yeah, no, it was dedicated to a
No, that's
former.
that's on the breast area. The Bill
Yeah,
Gordon
no, I know,
Memorial.
we have the prime.
And then Sheila and I met last night with the Wellfleet Board of Selectmen on our
Yes.
tour of the towns.
Right.
And we fortunately got moved up to the very beginning of the agenda instead of the very
We
end of
would have
the
been at the
agenda.
very end after, it would have been, I bet
Yeah,
they were there at
it's-
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we would have been there a while,
Yeah.
because they had a lot of public hearings scheduled last night.
Right.
But there was no public comment, so we got in the 15-minute window.
Yeah, he says if you can do this in 17 minutes, you're on. So he's
Yeah.
like, oh,
We'll
okay.
take
And that's
it.
why we called you, because
And
we
you
thought
had
maybe
another
you were.
meeting, so
Well,
you,
I did verify that the town of Wellfleet was aware that I was chairing the Housing Authority meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they did know that, so it wasn't as though, that I dissed them. or-
Wellfleet to Falmouth, that's gotta be close to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
back and
Wellfleet to
forth.
Falmouth?
No,
It's an hour and 15
it's only
minutes.
an hour and
You go all the
20,
way
25.
to,
It's about a
to
3-hour
Bridge
round trip.
And then
Yep.
down that way to get home, or how do you get home?
It's not,
It
it's
depends.
really not, well, there's no traffic. There
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
any
true, I
traffic
guess.
last night.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Yep,
2
time to go.
minutes to tape end.
All right, we're almost done.
Well, we're done.
The only thing I wanted to mention is
Okay.
Thursday, June 14th, is a memorial for Roland DuPont. They're gonna
Oh.
dedicate Compass Rose at the
Oh.
3 Mile Overlook in Bourne. You know where that is?
June
Right past the
14th.
town hall.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a wonderful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
What time is that going to be?
It's 11 a.m. on Thursday, June 14th.
June 14th. Okay. Is there any other business? Hearing none?
Oh, yeah, he has one more comment.
Uh-oh, we may have to stop. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to make the point that this is one of the most successful counties in the state. You're about to go through significant change, and there's 2 things you must really keep your eye on. One is that the funding for this is less than the 2 smallest towns' annual budget put together. And in some cases, small towns actually have a budget equal to or greater than yours. And that can't be the way you sustain this organization. You have a great value. The towns will see a value every time you take on additional responsibility, because the redundancy in 15 towns is staggering. With $150,000, $200,000 departments in town after town after town. So e-permitting and those kinds of things are going to make a significant change, but you must always build in funding for that, because the town will save money, but you're going to get an expense, so it needs to be balanced out. And I think you're doing remarkable work, and I can't believe how many meetings you go to. I thought I went to a lot. And I thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. That's very encouraging.
Okay, move to
And
adjourn.
I will make a movement to
All
a
those in-
second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming.
Thanks for coming.